Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. Alex Derry here, and today I have a really beautiful human here because I said I really need him on this podcast because reading about everything that I believe in, especially about human beings and our power that we have inside of us, something that we can tap into and we can explore high performance or success. And we actually don't need to do it with really hard work, the way that we go against the wall and we're pushing and pressuring our life and trying to achieve something. It's actually also our way to achieve it. And I'm sure Liam will tell us a lot about that, how we can tap into that natural power, natural, I guess, I don't want to name it because I think we will name it in this podcast, but a power within us that we have and we don't use often because we are busy, we are stressed, we're running our life. And I always said if we're running our life on the program or on an autopilot. So after 18, 25 years of our age, I believe we just became robots. And so many times we don't even think about what we're doing right now. So I'm calling you all who is listening, everyone who is here, just pause for a few minutes, just stay present to this conversation and truly try to enjoy and find the gold in the conversation because there is always the tiny, beautiful advice or things that can resonate with you right now. So, Liam, welcome to my podcast and let's dive in.
Hi, Alex. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to sharing my message and talking to you and getting to know you as well. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. I can't wait because I was like, wow, when I'm looking at your studying, last night 15 years you were studying humans and trying to understand why we were able to thrive. And now actually we are not really thriving that much. And it's like, what is that magic? So I can't wait to go into that. But before I call you on these all questions that I have, I would love to know something about you. Like, what is your background? How did you end up to even study and learn about that?
Well, I probably ended up studying and learning about this the way we all end up doing something. I don't really know. It just sort of happened. And that's a clue as to how life works because we're busy out there trying to figure out how to make life work. But in the meantime, life goes on. And when you think about your life, the significant things that happen to you, excuse me, they're not the result of goals lists and visualization and trying to make things happen. I mean, when you meet the person you marry or fall in love with, how does that happen? It's you didn't write a goal to have to meet that person and the next day that the day that you did and all and they'd be the perfect description. So we've been completely misled about how the way life works. It's not about us trying to make life work. It's about getting in harmony with who we really are and allowing life to bring us what we're supposed to have to thrive, to be the best that we can be. And so it's taken me a long time to realize, and a much longer time to figure out how this works. It took me a long time to realize that is the way life actually works. And I'd spent so many years as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for a lot of my life. Maybe I think I still am, if you want to put a label on it. So I've had 18 different businesses. And for most of that time, or a lot of that time, I really struggled. And it's not that I didn't have a lot of success. I did. I became a millionaire. But I struggled with trying to make things work. I always had problems. I always had these obstacles to overcome. And sure, I had success on the outside, but usually on the inside, I was thinking, if I was really honest with myself, is this really all there is? Is this the purpose of my life? Am I ever going to get to that place where I really feel fulfilled, happy that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that I'm not struggling, that I'm living in the flow? Because I'd had those moments, and I'm sure people listening, you've probably had those experiences where you every now and then you just feel like things are going well and things are falling into place. And it's not so much of a struggle, it's just like life is working. But we don't get those experiences very often. And I didn't get them very often. And, my life was full of stress and all these problems. And I got to think, well, maybe this is the price of success. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to live with if you want to be
Yeah.
successful. None of that's true, as I discovered. But it took me losing everything, going from a millionaire to becoming homeless, losing everything, to suddenly start to realize I had to do something different with the way I was managing my life. And when I did something different, everything changed. And things started to happen to me and magic, not getting woo-woo. This conversation is not going to have any woo-woo in it. Just if anyone's worried about that. This is what I've discovered. This is biology, this is science, this is practical, this is design of the way things actually work. But when you actually do things the way things are designed to work, that's when those feelings of being in the flow, being in the zone, having your life working, that's when they actually happen. And they don't happen in the way we've all been taught, which is through goal setting, visualization, struggle, getting clear on what you want, working towards things, learning more information. They are all things, as I'll give a biological, practical, logical explanation, they're all things that don't work. And maybe people are like me, they've tried all of those things and had to get to the place where, be honest, and say, it's not really working. Yes, I'm working towards my goals, but I'm not really achieving many of my goals. Yes, I'm really trying hard, but every time, the more effort I put in, it's like the more obstacles keep showing up to knock me off track. There's a whole reason why that happens, and that's really through my experience, I've come to learn and had the gift, if you like, of the opportunity to figure out this stuff, what's really different, and that's what I share with people now.
I'm really looking forward to it because I'm resonating with everything. I think I probably experienced everything. Like when we work hard,
Mm.
and I'm not saying that work hard is not good. Like I love work. Like that's fine. Some people, work hard all life. But I think there is a nuance. Like there's a difference between work hard and work hard, right?
There's a difference between working hard and struggling.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
Effort and
a really great
struggle,
way.
two
Yeah.
different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really great. I love that distinction because sometimes people think that I'm saying, oh, I don't need to do anything. No, 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 you need to do something, right? That is not, we don't do anything. It's just that exactly like you leading yourself, working hard, everything, you achieve something, but you're still asking yourself. And I had the same question always. I was like, why it takes so much? I don't believe that everyone is getting, business results or any results this hard. Like it can't be this hard because there will be no business owner, right? And I think there is a definitely that part where I know when we use intuition. And I was driving. That was, I think, last week Friday. I was actually having this moment, and I want to ask you about that because I think there is a part of maybe of what you're teaching. So I was driving, and I was going to show something to my nephew. He visiting from Slovakia, so I was so excited we are together, and I was like, "This is great." And I will take the phone call that I have with my clients in the middle of the day from the car. So everything prepared. I had computer, Wi-Fi, everything. And on the way there, it was massive traffic, and I was thinking, wow, would it be actually great if that is rescheduled for the next week so actually we can enjoy today? And it happened. And I was that moment even thinking, what if again what I wish for will happen? Like what should I make it mean? So I'm curious about that because I think when you're talking about the life happening more with no struggle or in the flow, I feel this is that feeling of flow. So you know that you wish something, I guess, from the heart, because it's not that you want to cancel or you don't want to talk to someone, but it's more about like it will be great. Like it will be really great this way because I have time and I can still deliver everything next week to my client. So it was such a beautiful kind of synchronicity and it happened. So do you know if there is part of the flow or like how you will explain that? What you wish for that's come true.
Hmm.
So be careful what you wish for.
That's the thing. But here's a distinction. I think where we most of us have gone wrong is we connect a thought with a result. So
Mm,
we think, well, if I think something, this is how the law of attraction is all built up. If I think something in a certain way, that's going to show up in my life. So whether it's through visualization or affirmations or repetition or writing it down or getting clear on it, but to be honest, that is very occasionally that works, but it works for a different reason. And we've
mm,
got hung up on this idea, which is totally wrong, that we can manifest or create something because we want it, that
yes.
there's some way we can use our brain or use our mind to come up with what we want and practice in a certain way and it will show up in our life.
That's not
That's
true.
not how it works. Because when I became homeless, I'd been to so many seminars and workshops and I meditated and I had all of this massive amount of information about that is how you manifest your goals and manifest what you want. But as I lay on my mother's sofa, because I had to move in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in the living room of her small apartment, I had nothing. And as I lay there, I thought, how did this happen? Because I'm an expert on success. I've done all the seminars, I've done all the firewalks, I've worked for years, and I didn't just
Um,
read books, I studied this stuff really hard. I listened to things constantly. I had all my goals. I'd done so many goal setting courses. But I
yes.
thought this was never on my goals list. And it comes down to what I said at the beginning, that we're busy focusing on thinking that we're trying to create what we think we want, but other stuff comes along that we don't want. How does that happen? And also good things that we end up thinking, I didn't even know I wanted this, but it's so much better than I imagined. You know, for 15 years, I've been a nomad. I haven't lived anywhere. Most of the time, I've been traveling around. I'm on my fourth yacht. This is a catamaran that I've had for 2 months, brand new 2 months ago in France. Now, if someone had said to me all those years ago, Liam, what you really need and want, what your ultimate goal is, what's going to make you feel in the flow, what's going to make you the best version of yourself and really live a life that you deserve to live, a really worthy life, your greatest
Yeah.
potential. If someone had said it, sailing around the world on your own yacht with a wonderful partner, managing your businesses from anywhere in the world, and you're going to be teaching people about how the brain really works, how we're really designed, how we're not designed to struggle, we're designed to thrive. And it's all come down to a biological misunderstanding of how life works. You're going to be teaching that to people around the world, and you're going to be meeting people like Alex Terre, who are great people. Now, if somebody had said, if I knew that, I would have said that's utterly ridiculous because it was way out of what I ever thought I was I could even do, let alone want to do. But I didn't know that that's what I wanted. So when we say we have an idea of what we want, as we'll explain, that's not how your brain works. Your brain is not designed biologically to show you how and what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to live by instinct, by natural instinct.
Love it.
You're supposed to do what you're designed to do in the moment to make sure you're the best that you can be. Because here's the really weird thing. As I said, I've lived for 15 years on yachts and motorhomes and just traveling around. I've spent great thing about living on a yacht. You're immersed in nature. You live in nature. And when I was quite a few years ago, I remember this moment on my yacht in the Greek islands, and it was a beautiful morning, and I'd been for a swim, and there's no one around, and this just anchored off a little island in Greece. And I
Beautiful.
remember thinking, I have this feeling that I've always wanted. Life is working well. I have my businesses working for me. But here's the weird thing. How did this happen? Because I'm not setting any goals. This certainly wasn't on my goals list, but I'm not looking for opportunities. I'm not chasing after anything. I'm not trying to figure stuff out. Things are just sort of happening around me. Opportunities are coming along and I'm taking them and they're working. And I don't have all these problems and stress that I used to. And I'm far more productive. I'm far more creative. I'm doing far more, but it's all fun. It's all enjoyable. And it all seems to have a purpose and it all seems to work. So as I started to really figure this out and I started to look around, I thought, what's really interesting is if I look at a bird, if I look at some fish swimming in the sea, if I look at a tree growing, there's no struggle there.
Mm.
It's all working. And I was reminded of the Bible verse, and hang on a second, I'm right next to Rome Airport, and a plane goes across every now and then.
We can hear
Um,
it, so that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I thought, nature is not actually struggling. And I know we've looked at all those wildlife documentaries and it's all struggle and, survival of the fittest and, dog eat dog or, eating the lion eating the wildebeest or whatever. That's not how nature actually works. Those documentaries sort of cherry pick those ideas. Nature is built on this amazing balance, on this amazing flow where if a bird needs food, it just finds food. There's this intelligence that's running everything and it's keeping everything in perfect design. And when you really think about it, nature, it's what I call the law of thriving, that nature is based on. That every living thing is designed to be the best that it can be, because being the best that you can be is the most efficient way for you to survive. And that's the
Mm.
purpose of nature, is to ensure survival. Everything is wired to survive for as long as it can. And the most efficient way to do is for everything to flow, everything to be its best, things not to struggle and try and nature, as I say, has had millions of years to find out the most efficient ways to do that. So the only species that struggles, if you really think about it, the only species that struggles is humans. Now, why do we struggle? Why don't we live in this flow? Why do we have problems that cause us to be stressed and which basically shortens our life? That
Yeah.
can't be natural because it doesn't fit a biological purpose. And does that mean we're different? Does that mean somehow we don't have the same biological purpose as the rest of nature, that we're not designed through the law of thriving to ensure that we're the best so that we have the greatest chance for survival? Well, there's a
Mm.
couple of things about that that prove that no, we are designed to be like the rest of nature. Firstly, we have the same physical makeup as the rest of nature. Why would we be any different to any other species? But the second reason, as I discovered more recently, is this is the way we used to live. For 97% of human history, we've been around for about 300,000 years, the Homo sapien species, us. For 288 or 290,000 of those 300,000 years, we live like the rest of nature. And we have this picture of cavemen, and they have this brutal, short, miserable life. None of the evidence shows that to be true at all. We were far healthier. All the archaeological evidence shows for 97% of our history, we were far healthier than we are now. Most of the diseases that exist, cancer, heart problems, diabetes, and all of these other things, they didn't exist for 97% of our history. We're actually taller by 5 inches than we are now. We shrank about 10,000 years ago. All of the health problems like uh, teeth problems, jaw problems, our bones were a lot stronger than they are now. And there's no evidence of war, conflict, all of these things. People actually look like they thrived. They were much happier and healthier and being the best that they could be. And something happened 10,000 years ago. And I thought, well, that's really interesting because 10,000 years ago, we went from this thriving state like the rest of nature. Our lifespan was actually longer than it was after that. All these clues, and then suddenly something happened. Something changed, and everything, all of the problems that we deal with today can be related to what happened then. And it came down to we had a switch in the way we used our brain. So we are designed to thrive. It's just we've forgotten how to do it.
Mm.
Due to this thing that happened 10,000 years ago, we've gone off track. And all of these beliefs that we now have about life being difficult, you're going to have lots of problems. Problems are good. That's completely illogical. Problems are inevitable. You're always going to have problems. None
Yeah.
of that is true. It's not biological. None of those things help you survive. So they're not wired into the way nature works. They're not wired into the way you work. But we've gone off track with the way we operate this machinery of how to interact with the world, which is our brain. And that's what's causing all of the problems.
Yeah, so definitely I will have so many questions around some kind of proof because I remember we were taught in the school, and when you're reading
Yeah.
the historical books, is saying that we are taller now and we're getting taller generation by generation and healthier because the average age, I think, of people dying, I think even when you look at 100 years before us, maybe like one, two generations before, then people usually, survive till like 60s, and so many people died very young because of there was no treatment for
Yeah.
teeth, for example. There was all these different diseases that we don't have now because we can treat them. I think, like from perspective of, yeah, teeth, they were major
But
thing. But I'm just
should I
curious.
just say,
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm just
I'm,
curious. Yeah,
I'm, I'm not talking about 100 years ago, 200, 300, 500. I'm talking about 12,000
12,000.
years ago.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of recorded history,
Okay.
is
We're going
that's when
far,
the
far.
biological shift happened. Now, we might be having improvements now from 500 or
Yeah.
1,000 years ago, but the
Okay.
big shift was 12,000 years
Perfect.
ago,
Okay. Got
way
it. Got it. Yeah.
before all of this
So,
stuff. But
so,
interestingly enough, we think we're healthier than we were
mm,
200 years ago. That's not actually true either. There were more infectious diseases than there are today, but if you look at people's health, they didn't die of cancer. So the lifespan was shorter because of infectious diseases and
yeah, yeah,
accidents which people couldn't deal with and
yeah, yeah, of
wars.
course.
the average. But if people lasted through childbirth, which was
Mm.
50%, if people lasted through that, and quite often, traveling around, I go and see graveyards, and you look at the age of people when they died in the 1800s, they were in their 70s and 80s, and there were a lot of them that were children, of course. But that's, just because the average is increased doesn't mean that the quality of life has increased
Yeah.
either. But I am talking about 12,000 years ago where there was
Okay.
this dramatic shift. Yeah.
I'm curious about that shift then. Okay, so when we go 12,000 years ago, of course, that's totally different. I was comparing like probably last few hundreds, 200s,
Yeah.
500 years.
Yeah.
So what is that that changed then? How we operated before and how we operate now?
Well, I'm actually writing a book about this called The Thrive Switch, which is about how you can switch your brain. Because essentially what happened when before that, we have these four parts to our brain, and it's like a family of brains. There's a part that's designed to make us thrive. This is our natural thriving state, which you mentioned before, where you feel inspired, where things happen, where you're in the flow. This isn't your thinking part of your brain. This is where you get ideas from somewhere else and you get the motivation to do things and you're creative and productive and you're just living naturally. But there's another part of our brain, which I call the survival brain, which is all about struggle and it's
Yeah,
based on fear. And it's the part of the brain that was designed originally when the brain first developed, and we use for 97% of our history, to deal with immediate threats and dangers.
yeah,
So you're
that's
walking
life.
in the forest and a lion comes along. Well, you've
Yeah,
got to have, instead of being creative and, living in the
yeah,
flow, you've got to have a
yeah, you need to
reaction.
run. Yeah,
Yeah.
rather
So
fight.
we sometimes call it the fight, flight, freeze,
Yeah,
if you like, to
yeah.
react to a danger. So that was always there to deal with an immediate threat or danger. Here you are living your thriving life. Something comes along and knocks you out of that state. You feel fear and you react to
Mm.
it. Now that's perfect. But what happened 12,000 years ago is we stopped living from our thriving brain. We stopped allowing instinctually our life to work out, because remember your brain is the most sophisticated and powerful thing on in the known universe, and it's designed to make sure that you have the best life so that you survive for as long as possible, that you so in other words that you thrive. That's what it's designed to do. But what knocks it out of that place is when your survival brain kicks in and you have to and you try and fight off a danger.
Yeah,
So we move from the state of using our thriving brain predominantly and just using our survival brain for what it was designed for when the occasional lion came along, which wasn't very often.
yeah. I've been using it a
What
lot.
caused this? And what caused that shift? What caused us? Because when we move to survival state, that's when we struggle because we're trying to fight everything that comes along.
It's yeah, like living in resistance all the time.
Well, here's what really happened, and it's a bit hard to condense it. This is why I've got a whole book to explain it. But what we actually did, what changed, a couple of things changed on the outside. One, we created agriculture. And agriculture, before that, we were nomadic hunters. But agriculture meant we had to stay in one place for food because you grow food instead of just catching it. And then a year later, you're still there. You have to cultivate it, and you're still there. And that's when you've got the food to eat. So the problem with all of that was we started eating foods that weren't suited for us, grains and other
Agree,
things.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And that knocked our health way out of whack.
Mm.
That's when all the diseases started to happen. We started to get sick with all these diseases that because we're eating food that was wrong for us. But the other thing you need when you have agriculture is you need a civilization. You need a town or a village or a city. You need people to be in one place, all grouped together to cultivate the crops. And you also need to work really hard as well. So we went from a civilization of nomadic hunters who would just go around and follow and gather food when the food was available and it was the right food for us. And we'd work maybe 2 or 3 hours a day to gather and prepare the food. We went from that to being in one place, struggling 8 to 12 hours a day, growing this food that didn't really suit us and living in conditions that didn't suit us, where disease, overpopulation. Well, the other thing you need with agriculture is you need a place to live. You need to be in one place. And so we started to create towns, cities, all of
Mm.
this, what we call civilization. But with civilization also came more problems because we were lived too close together. That's when we became less healthy. And the other thing that happened was conflict. There's no
Mm.
evidence of any wars or conflicts. And we need to create a hierarchy. We needed to create vision between people. We needed somebody to order and manage and direct the planting of the crops and the cultivation of crops and the organization of food. So that's when we started to create hierarchies. We had leaders and we had slaves, if you like, kings and serfs. And
Mm.
that created conflict because people started to get greedy. They wanted more. They would
Yeah.
have, I've got more land and I'm going to fight you for your land, sort of thing. We never had
Mm.
it before. We didn't have this structure of society that created winners and losers. So the real question is, why did this all happen? Why did we go? Because that's not the reason why. That's those are symptoms, but they're not the cause. Cause was we changed the way we used our brain that made us want to struggle, want to eat foods that weren't suited for us, want to have wars, want to fight other people, want to be slaves. What did we do differently? And this is how did we use our brain differently? It came to another invention, and this is what nobody's talking about. And that invention was language, words, symbols. Before that, we didn't have language. For 97% of our history, we didn't have language. At this point, we didn't need language. And the brain is not designed to use language. Now, I know people are going to think, well, that's ridiculous. How do you get on in life if you don't think, if you don't use words, if you don't use language? We're using language now. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use language and you can't, but the way we're using it is wrong,
Mm.
is not is what's creating the struggle. And what it comes down to, if you really think about this, what happens when you create a word for something, when you create a label? So if someone's listening, just look at your hand. Now, your hand is not a hand, your hand is, okay? But you create a label for your hand to describe what it is. So you have this word that comes in your mind that says, that is my hand. That is a description. But what happens on a biological level is it separates you from the experience. Instead of experiencing your hand, you're telling yourself a story about this thing and you're calling it your hand. So
Mm.
what we actually did was when we started to be able to create words and put labels on things and start to describe things, instead of just experiencing something, I'll give you another good example, which is love. How do you describe love? None of us can describe it.
You
People
can't. Yeah.
throughout history have tried to be able to describe it. If someone was to ask you, what is love? You couldn't describe it. You couldn't
Yeah.
use, there are no words that you could use to describe love. Yet you know exactly what it is. You know what it feels like. You
That
know
feels
it when
like.
you experience it. So that is what reality is. It's something that you know when you experience it, but when you try and describe it, you always fall short. And when you fall short, you create a distance between yourself, your experience of something, and your story about that thing. So what we started to do is we started to create stories about life because we now had language with which to communicate and do, make things happen. And obviously we needed language to make agriculture and civilization work. You can't give
Yeah.
somebody an instruction to plant that field if you don't have any words to tell them. So, but what we did was we created something that doesn't exist, but we made it real, and that's the future. So not only did we create the present, not only did we live in the present, we created this world of the future, of our thoughts, of our ideas. And we would say things like, what's going to happen in the future when those plants come to maturity? When am I going to be able to cultivate them? And that's all great in one way, creating this future. But what happens to the survival brain? The survival brain is part of the brain that's designed to solve all the problems in your life, to look out for every danger. It's constantly on the alert for danger. So you're walking through the forest and the lion comes along. You need it to be able to recognize that there's a lion there. But when you create words, when you create a story, when you create a different world of future, your survival brain, it doesn't have a sense of time. It doesn't know that it's in the future. So when you say, I might not have enough food in the future, it's seeing you as not having enough food right now. It's seeing it as a problem right now. So what does it do? It keeps you stuck in the stress state because it's constantly trying to solve not every problem that you actually have in your life, which these days aren't actually in reality for any of us very many compared to everyone else in history, if you like, or certainly for the last 12,000 years. It's not
Yeah.
only there trying to solve the problem that you have right now, it's trying to solve every potential problem that you're telling yourself through a story that may exist in the future. And that's why we're struggling. That's why we're stressed, because it's keeping us locked into this survival part of the brain. And the other part of your brain, the thriving part, that's based on
Intuition.
intuition, creativity, what you say, you just get this knowingness. You're not thinking about it, something just happens. That's all shut down. All of those resources are not there available for you. And that's why we
And
can never solve problems. That's why we always stay stuck and say, I just wish I could figure this all out. I could just figure out if I could just figure out
yeah,
what to do to make me happy. What am I supposed to be doing? What's going to give me a great life?
yeah,
You can never do that because you're using the wrong part of your brain.
yeah.
The part of your brain that has all those
Love it.
answers is not available to you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because I truly believe everything what you're saying from perspective of how we live. I think we live too much in a fight or flight mode all the time, and there is no access to intuition. There is no access to actually the the part of us, I believe, that actually can do everything and can
Mm,
solve the problem or can actually create a life for us what we want and need. But it's just we don't use it, so we can't be really in a flow. I super agree with that. So yeah, I was having the conversation about intuition with actually one of the groups we have at a meeting because I was like, let's talk about stories in your life when you actually knew this is good decision and everybody was telling you that's bad, that's wrong, you shouldn't do it, that's dangerous, that's
mm,
crazy, you shouldn't leave the job, you shouldn't move the continents and everybody started to share the stories of actually using an intuition because we all did it at least once in life, right? We all did it. We all been in
mm,
that flow. And there were tears, there were amazing stories when people actually achieve unimaginable, I would say, because you are in totally different state now, and in 1 week you are already in a different continent doing totally different things that you were doing a week ago. And it's
mm.
all in flow, it's all you're happy, you're finally aligned, you're meeting people, you're meeting your wife or husband, like everything just kind of works together, right? So I
Yeah.
will be curious how to, because you talk a lot about the brain, and I understand there's a fight or flight, or we're working from amygdala, or we are working from that sympathetic nervous system, if you wish to call it, and
Yeah.
there is this stillness. There is this state where we can tap into that. So I will be curious, how do you think, or can you tell people how we can do it, how we can then thrive without that struggle, without that ongoing feeling of somebody stopping us? There's always obstacle, there's always something. So what is on that other side, like where we can start?
Well, here's the thing, part of the problem with our modern society is we're an instant fix solution society. We want to know the answer. Right, tell me the one thing to do that's going to change my life. And there is a one thing you can do, but you're not going to do it because you don't understand how to do it, and because your old habits are going to prevent you from doing it. It's a little bit like if you're overweight and you go to a health nutritionist and say, "How do I lose weight?" And they say it's dead simple. Stop eating the wrong foods, eat the right foods, and do some exercise. So what to do and how to achieve this is very simple. But there's a lot more, but people aren't going to do it very easily, are they?
Yeah,
Because they've got this whole habits. They're totally for food. You're totally addicted to all the wrong foods and all
yeah,
the wrong food habits and the wrong understanding of what actually food is. And
yeah,
we have these fears. So the simple answer, the more complicated answer I should start with, is you have to start to understand how your brain works, how this works. Because I'm not talking about just having faith and belief and trying to
yeah,
get into some state where you just
yeah,
of meditation or changing your beliefs or anything like that. This is because I tried all of that and it didn't work. And it not only didn't work for me, but all the people I saw at the seminars, even the gurus saying, "Oh, look how successful I am." They weren't as successful as they made out. They weren't achieving every goal they set. They weren't saying, "I'll get $1 billion tomorrow." Now, if their idea worked, they should have been able to get $1 billion tomorrow, wouldn't it? If you can manifest whatever you want, then why shouldn't that work? So it's you have to have some understanding of this, otherwise you're not going to do it. You might say you do it, but you won't actually. So that's what
yeah,
I teach. You need to understand this. It's not a quick fix. You're not going to apply what I'm going to say as the quick fix if you don't
mm,
understand it. And you know what the quick fix is? It's something we've been told throughout history by every
yeah,
spiritual tradition, every scientific tradition throughout history, if you like. every philosophical tradition, that there's only one thing stopping you from using your brain the right way, and that's fear. In the
Mm.
Bible, it says 365 times, be not afraid. That's the instruction. So all you need to do, if you want to make your life flow in the zone and really thrive, really get to where you're supposed to be, naturally and biologically, your best, you have to get rid of your fear. Because fear is what drives, it's the trigger and the driver of this stuck survival state of your brain. Fear is the message your brain gives you, is that you have a problem in your life that needs dealing with, that there's a
Yeah.
lion there that you need to run away from.
Mm.
And it's the fear that's keeping you stuck in all of these imaginary stories. Yes, you've got enough money right now, but what you might not have enough next year, next month. So you have to make some more. Yes, you're a millionaire right now, but that's not enough. You need to be a billionaire before you can be happy, before you can say you don't have a financial problem.
Yeah.
Yes, your marriage might be going well, but you still might not have the communication absolutely perfect all of the time, and you still don't have this feeling of this wonderful marriage all of the time. So you've still got a problem. So you still can't be happy, you still can't
Mm.
thrive, you still can't allow your thriving brain to take control because you've still got a problem there. It's a potential problem. So you're never going to win at that game because your brain is always going to create potential problems that don't exist and probably never will. So you've got to get rid of fear. Fear is the driver. And people might say, well, that's how do you do that? It's impossible to get rid of fear. No, it isn't, because your fear is not created by your situation. It's created by the stories you tell yourself about what your life means. Oh, I could be happy, but I could be, I feel pretty healthy, but I might get sick in the future. There's all these other people getting sick. Life's pretty good, but there's a war that could break out at any moment, at any place in the world. So you need to learn a way not to I think the trap we've fallen into is we think all I need to do is tell myself different things that make me feel good. Instead of telling myself about all the bad things can happen, I need to play this game with my brain and no, but think positive and create some good goals that you can work towards and feel good about. But they last. All these good intentions and good ideas and thoughts, they never last. We always revert to feeling stress and anxiety because we might feel good for a while and then something happens and it knocks us off track and we suddenly go, oh, I've got this problem I need to deal with. It's so bad. And we feel all this stress and anxiety. And we don't realize what we've done is we shifted our brain state again. That fear and anxiety built on a story of what we think what is happening means, that's knocked us out of our thriving state. And it's going to stop us from finding not only the solution to that problem,
Yeah.
but to any problem, to anything in our life, to anything that's not working. So it's not actually about, and here's the simple answer. It's not actually about changing your story. It's about dropping your stories altogether. And in my book, I talk about this. It's not even a technique. It's so basic. You just say to yourself, drop it. I drop it. I'm just going to, you're aware you're telling yourself a story and stop telling yourself a story. Doesn't matter what the story is, good, bad, whatever. That story is
Yeah.
blocking you from your connection to your
Yeah.
experience of the present moment. And, if you think about mindfulness or all of these things, that's what they're really trying to get you to do, or what they say they're trying to do, is to come back to the present moment without thinking, without thought. So use thought where it's necessary, like in communication with someone else, or if you want to go on a
Yeah.
trip, you need to make a plan. But you don't need it to plan your life. Your thinking is never going to figure out what to do in your life. It's never going to, it's not the right part of your brain. Your thinking brain, your survival brain, it doesn't know what you should be doing to thrive, and it doesn't know how to get you there. That's all from this
Yeah.
intuitive part of your brain, which you only do the right things when you're not thinking about doing the wrong things, when you're not thinking about it. When you're doing something, and artists and, or should I say, athletes and peak performers, they talk about the state where they're not thinking about what they're doing. It's all just happening. They're
It's
putting in
happening.
effort, but they're not struggling, and something is taking over and making it all work.
Mm.
That's how the place you've got to get to, by just drop it, drop the story, stop thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. What I usually explain to people, there are two kind of tensions in our body, right? Like one is that is caused by fear, or when we are in fight or flight, or when we are worrying and painting this picture of horrifying things or bad things. And there is a tension when we actually let go of everything. And I think that that technique, what you mentioned, right? Just there is no problem, drop it. Or you say drop it, I say just don't try to put the label that is good or bad, right? Because there is not good or bad. You are okay as you are. You are okay all the time. But we decide that, oh, it's too cold, or it's too hot, or like we are always not okay. And I think that's like, I feel like the drop it, right? The state and just drop it, all these stories and problems is the same thing. Like we talk about that different ways, but it's just really understand that you're okay. You're okay. Just
And
sit.
you, yeah,
Be
and
okay.
the only way you can understand it is to know it. The only way
Yeah.
you can understand love is to know love and experience it.
Yeah.
You can't know something by trying to figure it out. The only way you can know, we talk about feeling gratitude. You can't manufacture gratitude. You can sit there
Oh,
and write down, and I used to do this as well, think, what are the 10 things I'm really grateful for? I should feel this gratitude. But you don't, even though you think and then you think, well, I should feel gratitude. Why don't I feel gratitude? It's
and
because
the
you're not
problem
being
again.
present. If you
Yeah.
drop your stories, reconnect with your thriving brain. I'm talking biology here as well. This is, people have gone
Oh,
off track and
it's
think this is a spiritual idea. This is what works mechanically in your brain. This is how
yeah.
you're designed. When you reconnect with your thriving brain, you don't need to think about what to do. So instead of thinking I'm
Mm,
cold, because for 97% of history, we didn't say if we were cold, I think I'm cold. If we felt cold, we instinctively did whatever we needed to do to remove that discomfort. We didn't think about it. So we might have, whatever it is, lit a
yeah.
fire but, put something warm on. We didn't we didn't have to adjust things by consciously doing it. We did it instinctively. And this is why the
Yeah.
Bible and every spiritual traditions, they talk about faith, because it's not faith in some God that's going to bring you what you think you want to make you finally feel satisfied and happy. It's the faith that you are designed to make sure that your brain is designed to make sure that all of the right things happen in every moment to make you thrive.
Mm,
And it's an instinct. We
I
have an
love it.
instinct for thriving, and we have an instinct for survival. We have an
Yeah.
instinct to react to danger, and we have an instinct to make things happen for us to be the best that we can be. We don't need to figure this out. And this is why goal setting has just is such a bad idea, because for a start, it doesn't work. When I talk to people, and it was my own experience, what percentage of the goals that you set you ever achieve? It's a very low percentage. It's like 2 or 3%. So it doesn't actually work. And the reason it doesn't work, if we could maybe talk about this for a second, but the reason why goal setting doesn't work, it doesn't make any biological sense, because all of nature is built on this principle of the law of thriving, which also means that the maximum result is achieved by the minimum expenditure of energy. Everything is designed to conserve energy, because you might need that. The less energy you use, the more
Mm,
you're going to
yeah.
thrive. The longer you're going to survive for.
And we live
So
all
if
we live all other way around. Like we live,
we're
with
wasting all this energy,
we have
because
no
here's the
energy.
thing.
Yeah.
If you set a goal, what are you doing? You're saying, right, okay, I think I want that thing. And what do you do when you think you want that thing? Particularly if it's something you think is going to make you really happy, you start to try and figure out how to get it. You
Yeah.
analyze, well, what do I need to do now to reach that goal?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
And
I'll go
all
get
the time,
some
all the time.
information.
Yeah. It's the
What do
cycle.
you do? What you're actually doing, you're analyzing, you're getting information, you're trying to figure it out, and you're trying to decide what to do. You're not doing anything in that state, but you're wasting a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's so what the way your brain is designed is not to show you what your goal is, it's to show you what you're supposed to do right now. That next step, it's supposed to get you to act intuitively and not without thinking, because thinking uses energy as well. So the most efficient biological way to get you to where you're supposed to be to thrive is just to have your brain and your body make sure you do the next right thing, the next thing that takes in the direction. Now, if you're thinking about it, you might be judging what that thing is, and you might be analyzing, saying, "Is that the right thing? What am I doing now? Is that the right thing I should be doing?"
But that's
Because
the
you
problem, right? But that's the problem.
exactly,
The moment you
exactly.
start to doubt, is this right? It's not right. Because you
Well, the
already,
moment you start analyzing anything,
yeah,
your brain is wasting energy. And
yeah,
we've spent nearly 300,000 years and millions of
crazy.
years of nature to figure out that's not biological, that's not the
It's
fastest way, the least energy,
yeah.
the most energy efficient way to get you where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to just instinctively do the
Yeah.
stuff. That's the way you're designed.
And that's the thing, when you have inner calling, or that, gut voice, or the feeling, right? That gut feeling, you actually don't doubt it. You don't question it because you somehow
No.
know inside of you that this is the right step, this is the right thing to do right now. So I think that's the probably kind of like a small thing for people that are listening, right? Like when you are starting to question your next step, that's probably something that you need to consider. It's not coming from the flow, it's not coming from your creative brain, it's not coming from your intuition then. And when you're questioning your ego and fear questions that, right? Because it's like, oh, is this right? Where did this take me? Does it take me to the goal? I think it's
Mm.
like the moment like we use the mind questioning us, I think we are struggling. We are already gone from the intuition, right?
Yeah, it's not the way the brain has been
Yeah.
designed to be used. The brain is designed to make sure that you do the right thing in the right moment. It's not designed to make you judge whether you're doing the right thing at the right moment.
Yeah.
But that's what language has done for us. It's given us all these problems about now we have to analyze things. Now we have this way of not just experiencing life, but looking at our experience of life and therefore judging
Yeah.
what that is. But
Love it.
this is the reason I really teach this from a biological perspective is because when you understand this, then you actually do it. If you don't understand it, you have this, you never actually do it because you keep thinking, well, oh yes, I'm in the flow and I'll just do what comes up. But the minute something comes up that you feel like that doesn't seem to you to be right, you won't do it. So we have
Yeah.
this idea, yes, I trust and this is the problem with prayer, with mo not to judge people, but most people pray, but they don't really believe what they say they believe. They
Yeah.
say they have
No.
faith, but they don't really have faith. Their faith is
That's
conditional. I'll believe
yeah.
you, God, as long as you give me what I
Yeah.
want, as
I
what I
think that
think I want, you know?
Yeah, I think there is the one thing you mentioned as the same, absolutely same thing, and I agree with that. When because everybody is telling you, oh, this is the great thing, exercise you need to do. You need to write down what you're grateful for, and yes, I understand the brain. It's a little bit rewiring, or is thinking about different things when you're writing that down. But I don't believe that's the state, right? So I was struggling with that. I was actually saying I will never do it because it doesn't work. But one day I was walking with the dogs and I had the most beautiful moment of gratitude. And that was first time when I don't know, 10 years ago, I was really feeling it. And I was like, wow, like this is it. And you mentioned if you don't know it, you don't know what it is, right? So I think it's really important for people to understand that there is important part of this whole transformation, how to use your intuitive brain. It's that you need to start to experience those things. And that's when you're present, when you are there in this right moment. If you are listening here, maybe you are, thinking about something. Maybe you're already asking questions in your head. Don't. Just be here and just to let go of everything that is coming to you and questioning even this conversation because like there's a lot of things that are coming from our brain all the time. So I always say just let go of everything and you can walk the dog or you can go anywhere and being with yourself for 2 minutes, sometimes 10, sometimes 5. It works for everyone different way. And you can truly enjoy that grateful moment in your heart. And it's absolutely amazing. So beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have those moments, but not from sitting down trying to manufacture those
Yeah,
moments,
it
as you
doesn't
just
work like
said.
that.
No. So, and the problem is, I really feel for people. I know what it's like to, when I was homeless, when I had this life full of stress and problems, if someone just said to me, just stop telling stories and everything will work out. I know how hard that is to people say to me, it's all very well for you, Liam. You've got this amazing life and, you say you don't have problems. You probably do because everybody does. You're just telling a
Yeah.
fib there to make it sound good. So, but as you said about your experience, how do we actually have this experience? How do we have that experience of love? We try and manufacture them through our thoughts, but our thoughts are what is blocking it. So if you're listening to this and thinking this is all
I
a load
love
of
it.
nonsense and doesn't make sense, it does make sense. And on a biological level, it makes sense. But just maybe accept that we've our brain is so out of whack, this machine that we've been given,
Yeah.
that it's going to take a bit of time. It's like the health, you're not going to turn your health around straight away. You're not going to start eating all the right food straight away. Maybe you start out eating with a little bit of awareness that I shouldn't eat this pizza, but I am anyway, or this bit of cake. You know, it's you start small by shifting your
Mm,
understanding of how things work. And then if you just work with it a little bit at a time, which is what I really have all over my website, is information and ideas that reinforce and get you help you get more clear about how you're biologically designed and
mm.
how this works. And then you just try it a little bit. And my drop it um, method, if you like, we just say I drop the story. Just you start by being aware you are telling yourself a story. And instead of trying to think positive and change it, just say drop it and see what it feels like not to have a thought. To just say the story, whatever it is, I'm not interested in the story, I'm just going to drop it. And you'll find that you'll start to make a shift in this different direction. It's not going to happen instantly. You're not going to solve every problem in your life instantly, but you are actually going to solve your problems eventually. That's the point. You're not going to be like me, who spent 20 years living in this pit of problems and stress and trying to force things to happen all the time. It will
Yeah,
actually happen. So, and this isn't just what I'm trying to get at, is this is not about nothing to do with disbelieving it or trying something. I tried so many things because somebody told me this is a good idea and it
yeah,
worked
yeah. I think
and
we
it
all.
sounded
Yeah,
logical, but it didn't work. So I'm just saying this is what's worked for me. It's what's worked for many people that I've helped. Wherever you are, whatever you're facing, just make a little bit of a, just think, well, maybe there's a different way to use my brain. Another quick analogy, I know we're running out of time, but imagine you come out of a forest and you've never seen a motor car before. You've lived in a tribe, and you see this thing there, and you say to somebody, "What is that?" And they say it's a motor car, and you say, "What's a motor car?" And they say, "Well, it's a machine." What does it do? Well, it takes you anywhere you want to go in a really, if you want to go 100 miles, it'll take you there really easily. Oh, you think, and then they wander off, and you look at this car and you think, I wonder how it works. And you see wheels because you had a cart in your village, and you think, okay, well, obviously the way it works is I get behind it and I'll push it along. So you get behind this motor car and you start to push it, and you meet this huge resistance. It's not moving, and you think, oh, maybe I need to push it a bit harder, and you push harder, and it still doesn't move, and you put all of your energy into trying to push this vehicle along, and it doesn't move. Nothing happens. But you're becoming worn out. You're becoming exhausted, and you're becoming frustrated. And what do you say to yourself? It's me. I'm the problem. I'm not trying hard enough. I need to
mm,
be more determined, more motivated. Perhaps I need to do some exercise on my legs or get some new shoes to make. And you put all this energy around and you look around you, and this is what everybody else is doing. And some people are making a bit of progress pushing the car along. And you ask somebody and they say, is this the way it works? And they say, oh, it's what everybody does. But of course, it's a struggle. It's not easy to get your car 100 miles. It's going to take a lot of effort, and the stronger you are and the more you believe, that's what's going to make the difference. And then someone else comes along and says, what on earth are you all doing?
yeah,
That's not the way the machine works. It's supposed to be easy. You're supposed to just get in and enjoy the ride, and it'll take you. The machine does the work. You don't do the work. So, and you think the only difference is, it sounds silly, but this is what we do with our brain. It's what we do with our life. We see everybody else struggling and we think, well, that's normal. But we don't
mm,
look in the rest of nature, and we don't look through our own history to say this is not normal. All that's
yeah,
happening is we're using this machine the wrong way. And when you start to use it the right way, which takes a bit of habit, you have to learn how to get in and drive the car. You don't just, do it instantly. It takes a bit of practice, and it feels uncomfortable to allow something to do a job. It's you give up control, don't you? It's the machine,
yeah,
it's the car that's driving, it's the car that's protecting you from other traffic. So it feels uncomfortable, it feels different, and you make mistakes.
yeah.
But you think this is so stupid. Why did we all think it was supposed to be difficult? That's not what the machine is designed for. That's the brain.
Love it. I love it. And it's also a great example of life, right? Like how we live the life and how we think and how we make decisions, and we choose the heavy and hard way always. So,
We
and
make it
there is
far
a
too
button.
difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Liam, I love this, and look, I love this is conversation. Definitely, that is my passion as well, and I love it so much. I love to talk about intuition and love to just talk about, different way of living because I think it's very important. And when we are in this, I don't know, age of exhaustion, because I see so many people burn out, tired, stressed, anxious, and I really think that we need a little bit of release. And I was actually writing the article about that. It was so funny because I think we are talking about it too much, about this mental health struggle and everything, that we actually become victims. And I think we became victims, we have all these excuses that we just mentally not okay. And we just need to pause, we just need to stop, we just need to really use a little bit of stillness and just start to be with ourselves, start to be present because we are so not present. And I love everything what you said about, the brain and how we can make it better, how we can actually work, without struggle. So I would love people, if anyone listening here and you really love the conversation, I would love Liam to share with us where you can find him. I know he mentioned a few times his book. So can we actually already get your book or it's coming and how people can connect with you?
Well, if people are interested in my book, it's not out yet. It's a little way off, but if they can sign up to get some updates and be told when it's released. It's called
Perfect.
the Thrive Switch because this literally is just a switch in your brain that you can switch on, and that we've
Perfect.
switched off for 12,000 years. And this shows you the simple way and why it works, how it works, explains why we've gone wrong. This isn't a scientific book, it's a practical book, if you like. But if you just go to thethriveswitch.com, you can sign up and I'll keep you posted on how the progress of the book is going. That's thethriveswitch.com. Or you can just go to my website, liamnaden.com, and connect with me there. And I've got a ton of information. I have a model of how your brain actually works, all of these different things,
Mhm.
um, to start to, in a simple way, understand that, you know, just one simple analogy, just to maybe to finish with. If you cut your finger, what happens? You sit there and worry about whether it's going to heal. Do you analyze it and, meditate and visualize and do affirmations or worry about it? You don't do any of that sort of thing because there's an intelligence within you that's designed to just make it work. There's an intelligence that keeps your body, the trillions of things happening in every moment that just keeps, and it's constantly trying to keep you in balance, keep you thriving, being the best that you can be. It's the same with your life. Your brain is designed to make not just happen on a physical level, on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level. Because when you're your best, when you're feeling your best, when you're thriving, you're fulfilling your biological purpose. You're giving yourself the greatest chance for survival. Everything is wired to be that way. So, this is what we just need to switch, if you like, in our understanding that it's not about struggle. It's not about trying to figure all this out and trying to figure anything that you do that's difficult as opposed to effort is not net. I know that sounds weird, but it's the only logical conclusion you can come
Yeah.
to when you realize how nature works and how we're designed. So, as I say, it's all on my website, liamnaden.com, and the book's called The Thrive Switch.
And thank you so much, Liam, for your time. Really appreciate it. It was so much learning from me as well, and I love the conversation. And for everyone who is listening, I will put all Liam's website and links and everything so you can find it in the description of the podcast. And I would just say the moment you feel that you're struggling, the moment you feel too much pressure, anxiety, and you're not feeling right, I always say just pause. Just
Drop it.
pause, go, drop it. Yes, Liam said drop it and
Drop the
just let it
story.
go. Yeah, drop the story. I love that. It's great reminder. Drop the story. I will tell that to myself probably a million times.
Yeah.
So we have all different stories all the time, and it's okay as well. It's okay to have story. Just know that there is a one thing you can do, and that's drop it. So thank you so much for listening and spending a beautiful time with us here on Conscious Leadership Podcast. And I wish you a beautiful week. Thank you. Oops.